Hey everyone, I'm Paul with MadCap Software. Welcome to video 7 out of 10 in our learning and development video series. So we are down to looking at creating and developing targets for e-learning. So in our grand process for basically all projects in Flare, create the project, did that, add content, did that, design, did that. Now we're at 4 out of 5 developing our targets. So cool. We are really getting close. Let's jump in to Flare and let's see how all of this happens and some of the most important things you need to know for e-learning courses. Okie dokie. That's right. I said it. Okie dokie. Now we want to ask ourselves, first of all, this is what I would do. I would ask myself, okay, going to create some online courses, need to develop, create and develop targets. How many targets do I need? Well, the answer is for each unique output, whether it's online or PDF, uh, types of courses, knowledge checks, combination, whatever, you need a separate target for each one. Let's get into Flare and see about this in our situation, what we're going to do. In our situation, we had decided, remember, if you think back to the earlier parts of this video series, we were going to do a bunch of courses, some for the city of Chicago, some for New York, some for San Diego. And we've been concentrating on San Diego, and maybe we'll add more courses for other cities in the future. Who knows? So for San Diego, we need to have some unique targets. And then we would also need them for Chicago, New York, and so on. So if we look in our project organizer, these are under the targets folder. And this project template provided us with a couple of folders because this one is set up for both online and print for PDF. And so we decided to separate these just to make it more organized. And we put our online ones in this online outputs folder and our PDF ones in this PDF outputs folder. We're going to look more at PDFs in the next video, I believe. Right now, we just kind of want to concentrate on the online, but how many targets do we need? So we have to think, all right, when I produce this, right now I've got 3 targets. I got one for my combination course, which has knowledge checks and a quiz. I've got a separate one for just a knowledge check. I got a separate one for just a test. Maybe there are different courses about San Diego. You want to break it down even further. If we did, we'd have additional courses. But we're just kind of keeping it with these 3. If I decided, hey, I don't want a course with just a knowledge check, I'd get rid of that one. And I'd just do the others. So it's all up to you. You just ask yourself, do I have unique output? Okay, so we've got these. Now in our situation, what I would probably do is I would create subfolders based on the cities. So let me do that really quickly here. All right, so I use this button to create these folders, which are empty right now, including the San Diego one. And I've decided that these online outputs and these PDF outputs are for the San Diego one. So I'll just do what I did in an earlier video, is click and drag, and I want to update my links. It's going to move these things down here. Just want to stay organized, because if I just had tons of cities and move these down here too. If I had tons of cities and tons of courses for them, this could be a really long list. And so I just like to use folders to stay organized. Now, once I get the first city all figured out and I get my targets all set up, what I might do then is what I've talked about before earlier in this video series. I might make a copy of this thing, because maybe I want the same kinds of courses for Chicago and New York. And then I would paste that in here, and then I would go into those targets and I would change the things that need to be changed. And I like to do that because once I get the first courses set up the way that I like, chances are they're going to share a lot of settings, and it's just less work to do that. So By the time I'm done with this, I could have, I could have dozens of courses, hundreds of courses. And so dozens or hundreds of targets. You never know. Some people will have projects in just one or just a few targets, and some people have tons of targets. It's really up to you. So that's what we're going to do in this course. We're just going to leave it like this. And in the next section, we're going to open up one of these targets, and I'm going to walk you through the settings that are most important for you to be aware of, both in general and specifically for e-learning. Now, targets have a lot of settings in them, and it can be easy to get overwhelmed when you first open them, but relax. You're not going to really hurt anything. You just need to take a breath, look at it, decide what's important to you, and use the things that are and ignore the things that aren't. And sometimes you build and then you go, oh yeah, I forgot this thing. You go back and make a change. That's okay. That happens. And but I'm going to take you through and show you now the things that I think you should pay attention to more than other things, especially for e-learning. Now, this project template already provided us with these online targets, and they're already set up just the way they should be. So I'm more going to point things out to you than change things probably. But let's go ahead and open this. Let's open this combination course one, and let's use this, and let's walk through it from beginning to end and see what's important, what's most important. Okay, so you got your tabs on the left, and we're just going to kind of work through these. I'm just going to kind of scan these pages and let you know what I think is really important. So on the general tab, I'm going to kind of look down here. Now we just have a course in here, and we are going to be pointing to a primary TOC, the TOC that we want to use. And you can see if you click the drop down, we did create initially some TOCs for Chicago, New York, and we've got a print one in here, and we're pointing to the right one. That's what you need to make sure you're pointing to the right TOC. Now, if you've got a topic that you want to open that's not in your TOC, and I do that with my help system. I have a topic called home that's just kind of out there, but it's not in my TOC. I will also I'll click that browse button and select that. But if it's in your TOC, and it's just going to open up the first one that's at the top of your TOC. Now, we don't need to worry about these. Not going to worry about that. Now, the output file, when we get to the section on building and viewing the output, hopefully I'll remember to show you the actual output files. And with HTML5 output, the files that are generated are different based on the different output types. And with HTML5, you're going to get a bunch of files and you get a bunch of folders. Now, what you need to know as the person authoring this is, what's the file that you want to point people to, the entry point? Well, if you just leave this to default, your main entry point is going to be called default.htm. And I just leave mine like that. It's just real easy to point them to that. And now you're into the output. But if you want, you could customize this. You could change this to okie dokie. And when you generate the output, it'll be okie dokie.htm. And you could point people to that if you want. Not going to worry about these other things. A lot of these things are very unique and very specific for certain things. I'm going to go to the next tab, skin. All right. This particular project template is skinless. And so I had already shown you this before I set it to none. Now, if I had a main skin in here, a side navigation skin, a top navigation skin, a tri-pane, and maybe I had a lot of them because maybe I want one for Chicago, one for San Diego, one for New York. Well, then, okay, then I would go in here and I would select that main skin. But in this case, we got it set to none. Not going to worry about these component these default skins, these components, skin components, because we only have a couple of them and we know what we're using. Most times you don't need to use this. Now, this section down here is for responsive output, meaning when people view your online output on a big screen, it's going to look a certain way. When they look at it on a tablet, it's going to maybe look things will shift and look a different way. And then on a mobile phone, it'll shift. And I had shown you way back in the beginning of this course, we had a feature in there with 2 tiles, and those were set up so that if people looked at it on a cell phone, they would stack one on top of each other. Now, if we were using a full skin, a side navigation or a top navigation skin, that navigation would switch automatically without us having to do anything when people went from a large screen to a middle screen to a small screen. In our case, we've got this skinless output, and it's really not going to make much of a difference anywhere. And so we don't need to change these. And even if you were using responsive output, if you had a situation where things were going to stack, these are pretty good size settings. So you wouldn't really change those unless you had a really good reason for doing so. I just want to inform you, if you decide to use a full skin, or if you want to use content and make it responsive so that things flip like that, these are the settings where they're going to happen. So at a breakpoint of 1276 pixels, when the screen is that wide, it's going to change to use those settings. And then when it gets smaller down to 767, it's going to use those. So I probably went too much into that. I just in case you were wondering what that is, that's what that is. Don't really need to change anything for that probably. E-learning, this is where we want to definitely focus because this is e-learning specific stuff. So if you want to integrate your courses, your online courses with an external LMS, you absolutely want to fill this out, okay? And so you have a choice here. You can select SCORM 1.2, SCORM 2004 XAPI Tin Can, and depending on what you select, these things will change. All right. And then you can give the course a name and a description if you want. And then these IDs, that section is different for different things for the XAPI Tin Can versus SCORM. And so you can read about these fields in the online help, and you might already know what you need to put in there. For XAPI Tin Can, these are URLs. And for SCORM, there's that URL for the ID. Now for tracking down here, if your output includes a quiz, you probably want to use this. You want to use test result. Okay, so it's going to track that accordingly. If your target is, if it's knowledge checks plus a quiz, it's still got a quiz in it, you want use test result. But if it's knowledge check only, you'll want to switch over and use select use course completion, and then select the percentage, how much. So that just means how much do they need to get through of the course. So they need to get through the whole thing. So the default is 100. All right, we're going to leave this at use test result because this is a combination course, got a quiz. Now, the other reason why you want to fill this in, the name field, is remember when we looked at our output and we got to the test results, we got course name in here, right? Well, that's what it's using. It's using that field, at least by default. Now, if I went into my skin, see the test results, I believe I'm looking in the right place here. And you go into UI text, and there is your title. Now see, it's using these brackets and it says course name. It's pulling from that. I could override that and I could just type anything in here, in which case it doesn't matter. Then I don't need to fill that in. I could call it okie dokie, or I could call it San Diego course, whatever. But it's probably good to leave it like this and to fill this in, because then it's automated. And so I could just put San Diego combination course in here, or something like that. And so in my target for the knowledge check course, I could say San Diego knowledge check course. And for the test course, I could say San Diego test course, whatever I want. And so it's unique per target. And it's really nice because then that in the test results, that field will just fill in automatically. All right, next thing is you absolutely want to look at the conditional text tab. And again, these are all set up already. Now, remember earlier in this series, we looked at single sourcing and we did conditions, and we put conditions on text on that first page of the course, right? On those paragraphs. And we also went into our TOC and we put conditions on there. Well, just doing that isn't going to make any difference if we don't set it also in our target. You've created your conditions and you flagged content, or in our case, also the TOC nodes. And we said, we want to use these conditions, but so what? You still have to go in here and say, all right, for this target, these conditions, it should be included, or it should be excluded in this case. And so what you do is you just select these things. Now, San Diego was the new one. Remember, we created that extra one in there, and this is a San Diego thing. So I would say include that thing. And there are additional ones that have to do with media queries. Remember, I was just talking about the web, tablet, and mode, that responsive thing. So that's just kind of another level of conditions. Well, I'm not going to go into that. If you want to, I believe I actually go through it in the tutorials, the advanced tutorial for eLearning in the online help, and you can read about that, how you can create conditions specifically for the media query. All right. And you can also have, if I had multiple condition tag sets, you could select them over here on the left. I only have one right now, so it's showing me everything. And then if you select show all tags, it'll show you everything for all condition tag sets. So this is set up just the way that we want. And because we're working from a project template that was already done. If you use this project template and you get in and you go, okay, I just want to use different conditions than were provided in the project template, cool. You create those, but then you're going to need to go in here and you just have to go down and ask yourself, for this output, do I want this condition to show or not? And then you click them and select the options accordingly. Okay, cool. Variables. Now, variables, again, I am going to talk about that in the next video where we talk about PDF output, because we will come back to targets there. So I'm going to spend more time on that. So yeah, so I'm going to hold off and wait and do that there. Publishing, not going to worry about that here. This has to do with automatically publishing output, moving your output files from one place to another. Maybe I'll talk about that a little bit when we get into the video on building and publishing. Glossary, not going to worry about that. Relationship table, no. Search, we don't have search in here, not going to worry about it. Now advanced, come down here. There's a lot of little fields in here, a lot of little fields. And we're not going to worry about these. These are very, very specific for certain things. And if you ever want to know what all these things do, just go into the online help. There's a topic called editing target settings. And it'll tell you everything you want to know about all these fields, what they all do. And maybe some of them you'll find out that are important to you, and maybe some like, I have no idea, I don't care, and I never will. That's fine. Okay, come down here. The main thing I want to point out here is this template page field. Because remember, in this project, we are using template pages, 2 of them, right? And most of the topics we want to use this template page, which has that eLearning toolbar in it. Well, when you have a particular template page that's being used by the bulk of your topics, it's good to come in here and tell it and to just select it from the list. All right, so we're using that one. What about this one? The course title. This is a template page too, although this is a special case where we're only going to use it for one topic, and that's the first topic you come to. Well, by setting this in the target, you're covering most of the topics, but that extra one, then what you do is you go to where that topic is, and in here it is that course title one. This is the special case, and I would right click that and go to properties, and you see template page, course title. It's going to, if I didn't select it in here, it would use the same template page as everything else. But I'm saying, hey, this is a special case. Use this one instead, this course title one, okay? All righty, so that takes care of the advanced tab. And performance, we're not going to worry about that. Build events, we're not going to worry about that. Analytics is really cool, but we're not going to worry about it for this. Language and warnings, we're not going to worry about it for this. Okay. Again, there's a lot you could learn, and there's some really, really cool, useful stuff in the target editor. But to get going, to really get your course off the ground, those are the fields that you should be concerned about. Okay, and then we are going to talk about the PDF output, and we will do that in the next video. So we'll come back in because there's a few special things that we want to look at for the PDF outputs, but this should give you a good idea of how you set up your targets. You're giving Flare all the information it needs, and then you're just about ready for takeoff, where we're going to build our actual output. All right, so that does it for this video. Hang on. Let's get into PDFs in the next video.